You're as cold as ice. You're willing to sacrifice our love. You never take advice. And someday you'll pay the price, I know. I've seen it before, it happens all the time. When the door leaves the world behind. All right, here goes. Here we go, guys. Hey Edgar. Hey Edgar. Before we get into today's topics, we were just talking about you the other day. Um, I wanted to make sure I attributed it right. We were talking about who was it, guys? The other day in the Free for All Friday stream, the jokes started flowing freely and heavily about. Oh, it was about orphans, and I was trying to remember. I think it was you that got the wheels started on the um, Stephen Hawking jokes, wasn't it? I wanted to give the right attribution. Remember, we went on for like 3 months with with Stephen Hawking jokes endlessly, and I was trying to remember who got it started. I think it was you. You got a notification, Mr. King of Negativity? Susan, sorry, she didn't mean to. Cheese thinks we're talking about who obviously I've had COVID. I'm just curious how many of you guys have and what your experiences with it were. We'll talk about that. End of 2019, I got the single most worst chest infection cold my entire life. Now, cheese is not 100% across the board, but typically you get that loss of taste and or smell. Did you get that? That's usually a good indicator if you get that. I'm just trying to remember if that was. I don't see Edgar here. Um, I think he was the one that got that started. That was hilarious because I've always been a huge Stephen Hawking fan, and it just caught on like wildfire. Philip says never had COVID. Also, they're blowing the Omicron variant way out of proportion. And the scientists who discovered it in South Africa saying as much. Yeah, that's what I wanted to bring up about it, Philip. That's what I'm seeing too. Now, again, nothing. Obviously, there's not enough numbers to make anything concrete, but the early indicators from South Africa are showing that while it might be more easily transmissible, it might be could be significantly less potent. Fuck off, train. Okay, was Edgar says, yeah, man, I feel bad about pushing Stephen Hawking down the stairs like that. It's just that is one of the we've been doing streams for years here. You guys know that, and that is one of those iconic segments of time in there when those caught on like wildfire. Yeah, Gabe, what is an orphan's least favorite word? Family. Cheese says, so whatever I got hit me worse than the flu. Could have been then, pal. Could have been. I got, well, I told you guys when I got it, the most prominent and most difficult to deal with symptom was the fatigue. Holy hell, does it beat the shit out of you as far as just making you feel exhausted. Other than that, I had what I would typically call flu. But the fatigue was much worse than I get with the flu. The only thing I'm wondering, though, is now, as you guys can hear, I'm still trying to shake off the final lingering effects of this cold I had, and those typically never go this long. I'm wondering if having had COVID could have anything to do with that. I don't know. It's just a guess. But god damn, I'm getting tired of still trying to kick this cold. Wolverine says, I bless the vaccine rates down in Africa. Gamers don't believe in COVID? Boring ass. Well, COVID exists. It's not a matter of whether you're believing in it, but yeah, the flu is a thing as well. Because again, what I got last time was what I had just recently here was a bad cold. I mean, those still happen as well. Just to prove it to myself, I've still got a couple of those home tests. I took a COVID test and I didn't have it again. Barry says I'm fashionably late. If this were a party, I'd be cool as balls. Justin says my whole family had it. Fatigue. There you go. For 2 days was my worst symptom. Secondary was my knees were sore. And lastly, I had a fever for an hour one day. Wow, that's not too bad then, Justin. Yours weren't too bad. I know it's funny you brought that up about your knees. I did notice that too. That of course you guys know my history in wrestling and everything. I've had so many injuries over the years. And I did notice with COVID that all the areas of my body where I have known significant injuries, like both shoulders, particularly the left one, that hamstring, my right hamstring, every place that I had an injury seemed to really get really sore. Was just constantly just dull pain and sore. Wonder that I didn't expect. Well, I think that's what it is more than anything else. Big Green says I never heard about the knee thing in COVID. I'm wondering if he doesn't have an issue in his knees because that happened to me. Uh, Again, the most prominent injury that I have outside of this dislocated thumb from day to day is my shoulders, and again, particularly the left shoulder. And man, when I had COVID, oh, they were just constantly sore. Philip says, here in Canada, Trudeau is definitely doubling down on the Omicron narrative. Most likely because he likes the carte blanche it's given him. Sure, but we already knew he was a dictator wannabe. Same thing happened here in New York, Philip. New Governor dipshit Hochul here already. I mean, a couple of weeks ago, as soon as she heard about the Omicron variant, put in place a thing where the hospitals had to keep X amount of beds open. So now you may have some sort of procedure you need, but you can't get because we need to keep beds open because the Omicron variant might be coming. Now, she doesn't know a goddamn thing about what this variant actually does because none of us do. And again, just to get their names out in the media. That's all it is. They could, this Hochul especially, could give a fuck less about the people in New York. It's, oh, I'm going to be the first one in the nation to take action against Omicron. And they honestly think that people appreciate this. I mean, some idiots will. But regardless of the political aisle side of the aisle you're on, that makes no sense. First of all, we don't know if it is, what type of effect we can expect from it, if the symptoms might be lesser than they have been in previous variants. We don't know how quickly it's going to spread, if at all. But she's already put things in place. Now, obviously, she had plenty of time to do that. That's not something you had to do that early on. If you see that it's starting to have an effect here in New York, if you see that the Omicron variant for some reason is more potent, sure, you could make that move. But as soon as she heard the name Omicron, she couldn't wait to get her name out there saying she's very proactive. She's an asshole. This is Kyle says, my brother and I had COVID. My brother had pneumonia and had to go to the hospital. Oh, that sucks because his oxygen was dipping a bit. We're both fine now. Oh, good. Good. I never got anywhere as close to where I thought I was going to have to go to the hospital with my symptoms. But yeah, it was, again, it was just that fatigue was brutal and a bad flu. Those were my symptoms. But my wife and I both were vaccinated. The results, the past issues with COVID have shown that if you're vaccinated, it tends to make the symptoms lighter, which probably worked in our favor. Mr. King of Negativity says the most notable thing about the Omicron variant so far, because we still know fuck all about it, right, is how irritating the media has been with it. I saw an article the other day, something like the Omicron variant might be more deadly than any other. Oh, jeez. But the TLDR of what the article said was, we don't know anything about it, but it's possible. Well, then maybe shut the fuck up till you do. That's why, Mr. King, that's why media has just become worthless. Because everybody, just what you outlined there, it's all about getting a click. As far as accuracy, means nothing. The writing an article with only partial information to push your agenda is how media companies commonly handle everything now, particularly the major media companies. They're garbage. I have no use for them. Betty says, I'm medically exempt from the shot, so I can't get any of my doctors to agree to it. My advice, speak to a doctor and don't let vaccination alone fool you into complacency. Well, we know, I'm living proof. We know you can still get COVID with a vaccine. Obviously, my wife and I were both vaccinated and got it. Although it does, the stats do show that it tends to make the symptoms less severe, which, being an old fart and a fat fart, it's probably a good thing I did get vaccinated. Willie says, I'm here just trying to keep my house off fire. What's going on, Willie? You guys got fires in your surrounding area? Lick says, did I tell you about how I got my second vaccine on my birthday? Immediately went out drinking and regretted it shortly after. Oh, Licks. Oh, no. Oh, that had to have been a fun episode. Oh. Standard username says, I had COVID. First week was the worst. Coughing, fever, muscle pain, etc. Second week was fine except for not being able to smell anything. Similar to mine then, pal. Yep. And again, mine, the first word that comes to mind with what I went through is fatigue. But yep, muscle aches, like you said, coughing. My fever was, well, of course I would take Dayquil and stuff so that, that'll knock your fever down. My fever never got to more than I think it was 100.1 or something. Not a raging fire of a fever by any means. Philip says, I'm opposed to lockdowns and vaccine mandates. I as well, since they've proven ineffective and have done more harm than good. Agreed. Doesn't matter what side of the political aisle a candidate is on. Let's see. Excuse me. Oh, I'll have to wait for more. Yeah, no, I'm with you. And you guys know that I've been vaccinated. I haven't gotten the booster, but that's because I haven't talked to my doctor about it yet. But we have a regular pharmacist that we go to all the time, and I trust her. And we were chatting the other day. I was in picking up some prescriptions, and she said, should definitely check with your doctor. She said, but, excuse me, I'm sorry, guys. They're basically going to tell you, with having been vaccinated and having COVID, you're so full of antibodies, it's not necessary right now. Oh, okay. Willie says, now one of our light switches is... Wait a second. Willie, I'm sure you didn't put that in there. So are they now leaving posts up and Susan's putting the word censored over it? I assume he probably said one of our light switches is fucked. Or something like that. Are you kidding? Wow. MWS in all caps. Not necessary. We'll find we find posts without screaming. Omicron isn't dangerous. The doctor who found it said it's nothing to worry about. That's not true. You'll feel like a hard day's worker like you and I already did when we get up in the morning. Now, we can't allow, and I can't allow, without getting an action against the channel, misinformation to go on. The doctor on the team, that woman doctor, who was one of the ones who found it, did say it's encouraging, and that so far, in the limited number of people, it's been a few thousand people, they hadn't seen any severe cases. Nobody was hospitalized. And she did say what they're seeing so far is fatigue, always. Fatigue for a day or two, and a dry cough and sore throat, or sore throat. But we can't say it's nothing to worry about. She didn't say that either. All she said was that's all we've seen so far, and that's what obviously everybody's hoping for will be the case. But we have to be accurate about what we're stating here. Wow, your oxygen saturation went below 80, Bezod? Ooh, that's scary. Yeah, I got one of them, I forgot, what do they call those meters? But to measure your blood oxygen level. I was mainly concerned about my wife. Mine stayed way up there. It was 98, 97 all the time. Hers got as low as 93, and then it bounced back. Wolverine says, well, Wolverine, but Holly and Jolly and Gooshy says, have a Holly Jolly Gooshing new name. New name, who dis? Oh, you put that in there. Okay, thanks, Willie. I put that in there, he says, after continuously getting censored. I just want to make sure that wasn't the game they were playing now. Although that would probably almost be preferable. Just put a little censored over the word and we'll figure out what it is if it hurts Susan's little sensibilities too much. Again, now, you guys don't want me to go on that rant again. But why? Why ask us if we want the chat moderated if you're just going to do it anyway? Because I say no and then you fucking do it. Barry says, I got my booster this past Wednesday. Other than some minor pain in my arm where they injected it, I feel fantastic. Went to work the next day, no issues whatsoever. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, like I say, I got to check with my doctor. I have my yearly physical coming up anyway, and just ask him what he thinks. But again, with having the first 2 shots and having had COVID, I don't think the booster really can give me any more significant antibodies than I'm already packing. Gimster says, the thing that sucks about where I live is that it's mandatory for workers to get vaxxed. A bunch of people left because they didn't get it. The big companies' laws, get vaxxed or get out. See, yeah, I'm not comfortable with that myself. And again, I'm somebody who believes in the vaccinations, and I'm not comfortable with that. Chrome says, silly Curtis, let an adult decide what's best for you. I mean, are you even old enough to spell Our Lady Susan's last name? Yeah, why she gotta have a weird last name? Wojcicki. It sounds like a venereal disease. And I'm not, says, Chrome, come on, you're gonna get me in trouble. Don't get me started saying stupid shit about Susan. Look says it. Look, I'm typing in all caps. That's how you know I'm worth ignoring. Steve says, you seem healthy, same high energy, you're feeling normal. I missed the conversation, you're feeling sick. Oh no, Steve, I had COVID back in late September. It was just with the Omicron variant making its rounds now and everything. I was just curious how many of the gang here had it and what everybody's experiences with it were. And as far as Omicron, we're just hoping that some of the early things that they're seeing with it prove to be the case, and that it's because obviously if it becomes known that the Omicron variant is only some fatigue and a sore throat, then we want it to take over from Delta, obviously. Chimera says, I have my 2 COVID vac doses and I'm debating on getting the booster, especially because it might not matter with the new variant, so I am unsure. Yeah, they don't know yet. You're right on that, pal. Best thing to do is probably the same thing I'm doing in my situation. Just ask your doctor what they think. Yeah, I know what you're saying. Last I read on that, they're saying they do think that even if they think if the Omicron variant can more effectively get around the vaccines, they do still think the vaccines will lessen the chance of severe illness. So there's that. Excuse me. Fleet Flute says, no strong thoughts, just COVID being its dickish self. I'm just wondering what they're going to call the variants after they run out of Greek letters. Yeah, right. Yeah, what do we go to? They would just give them boring names like Martha or Guinevere or something. I don't know. I got the Guinevere variant. Sounds very, very ancient British or something, doesn't it, Guinevere? Oh, Chrome says I was ill just a few weeks ago. Just a cold, though, not COVID. Yeah, this fucking cold I got, Chrome, just won't entirely go away. It's pissing me off. Philip says, here in Canada, we have Trudeau, who is a Liberal, supporting it. In Ontario, the province I live in, our premier is Doug Ford, a Conservative, and he's supporting it. I oppose them both. Yeah, I don't support that either. Not with just what you said, Philip, not with what we know about it and how it's able to spread, and I'm just not for mandates. Excuse me. Sorry, guys. Skydormer says, I had COVID for 2 weeks, barely had any symptoms. Oh, nice. Apart from a persistent painful cough that I never had before. That was last winter. Been completely fine since. Oh, that's cool. And it could be, with the cold I've got now, I'm still trying to kick now. Could just be it was a bad cold, and that's why it's lingering so much. But it just struck me, it's like, okay, this is the first cold I've had since COVID. I hope COVID didn't help to facilitate colds sticking around longer. Igor says, I'm not following the news, so I don't know if the booster vax here in Brazil is available yet. I'll get it, but it'll hurt. The first dose, I didn't feel anything. The second, my arm hurt like hell. Could be too, Igor, from what I've read. Could be too, just depends on who administered it. They might have got your muscle, maybe, with the second one. Alex says, my dad got COVID and refused to be careful with touching stuff, so eventually the rest of the family got it. We didn't tell anyone about mine, though, since we couldn't afford any more time off work. Oh, that's too bad, Lex. It's too bad you had to just deal with it. Stormstar says, in all seriousness, I hate the fear-mongering going on with this. Oh, yeah. Yeah, the media is just garbage anymore. Looking for anything to generate clicks, and fear does that. The tabloid said worst ever variant. It's been around 2 years. So at 3/4 variants, this is the worst. What, or 3 to 4 variants, this is the worst. What are the chances? Yeah, and nobody knows Storm. Sorry, that's just begging for clicks. That's all it is. The early returns, I mean, the little bit of information we do have on Omicron are just the opposite. They're very encouraging in that they're not seeing a lot of, or any, over in South Africa. They're not seeing severe illness with it. Lude says, hello, and haven't had the Rona myself, or if I did, I never noticed. As for the variants, it's a virus just like the flu. It's going to keep evolving constantly. I think people are overreacting at this point. Yeah, I think even more so than just people in general, Lude. I think it's like we said, the media is overreacting, trying to get the people to overreact, because that pays the bills. Stuart says, do you have any plans to react to Mr. Beast's Squid Game? No, I already saw it. I watched it. I had to watch it. It was pretty well put together. I thought he did a good job with it, Mr. Beast. I thought it was pretty cool. It was fun. Gabe says, we wrote letters to a kid with cancer. My letter read, it's a bumpy road, but soon you'll have a straight path. People didn't realize it was meant for his heart monitor. God damn, Gabe. That's terrible. Oh, shit. Chimera Yuri says, not sure if you saw the South Park special. I did, but they're predicting COVID will be here for 40 years. I could honestly see that happening. Starting to look that way, isn't it? Excuse me. Like it's just going to be endemic and we'll never be rid of it. Mr. King of Negativity says, COVID seems to have drastically different effects on people. It does. My dad got it and his only symptom was tiredness. I have an aunt who died after getting it, though. I'm sorry to hear that. It's hard to make accurate predictions. Yeah, as far as, you're right, as far as the effects, it's all over the place. Hell, some people have no side effects, no ill effects to it, are completely asymptomatic, and like you said, and others, unfortunately, don't survive it. Philip says, my faith in the media and the government was already shaky prior to COVID. Now it's more or less non-existent. I'm completely with you. I have no use for the media anymore. You just have to, when you want to get information on something, you just have to scrounge around, try and find the sources, not necessarily media sources, but the sources that are closest to whatever the particular topic is, and do the best you can to try and ferret out the real information, because you can't trust anything in the media. Excuse me, and they get all bent out of shape saying, no, that's not true. We're the last bet. We're the things that keep you safe from tyranny. No, you're garbage. You are. And I take no joy in saying that. Again, I've told you guys, my education was in journalism, which is why I hate the current state that we're in with the media. Because everything might be a little bit of an exaggeration. A majority of what they write, a majority of what they report is done with their own particular slant to further their own narrative. And by doing that, I don't mean that it's fake news. I mean that it's biased, slanted news where you don't tell the entire story. You just tell the parts of the story that will push along whatever it is you wish to push along. Be Fond of John says, yeah, it's crazy. My girlfriend was almost completely asymptomatic. I had a bad cold with brain fog. My roommate was hospitalized, and my dad is a long hauler. Oh, jeez. It's crazy how different it can be. It is. It is. It sucks. It's such a crapshoot. It makes me think similar of being involved in wrestling for all those years. You're around steroids a lot. And it's similar in that regards that steroids were the same thing as far as being just completely a crapshoot. You'd get some people could take them their whole lives and basically have no ill effect, and others take them and within a year they're dying because their heart exploded or some shit. Gimster says, here in British Columbia, southern part, a beer and wine owner had his shop shut down because he openly said that he won't enforce vax proof. Oh, Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love. Yeah, it's getting insane. It truly is. Willie says, next 4 posts, please. I have a story to tell. Okay. Um, yeah, and that's the thing, too. You're going to come up with all these. So, what if what a lot of the epidemiologists believes becomes the case? What if this virus becomes endemic, but it becomes much, much less deadly, much less potent, which is entirely possible if you listen to the experts. Not a guarantee, it's possible. So let's just say at some point COVID becomes no worse than the flu or a bad cold. Are we still going to have all these rules in place? Are you still going to be left out of society if you're not vaccinated? And again, I am vaccinated, but they're getting too carried away. I completely agree with that. Well, he says, okay, story time. I work at a Lowe's. I was just at Lowe's, and I was bringing down items from the top shelves in aisle 24. I noticed I had trash and went to the garden desk to throw it away. One of the managers walked by and asked what I was doing. I told her downstocking, and she said, I go back to aisle 24 and started downstocking again when a customer called wanting to know about a Christmas tree. She said she had an item number for me to look up. I didn't have anything to write the number down, so I went to the garden desk again to get some paper. 10 minutes go by, and I hang up with the customer when the manager walks back in and accuses me of not doing anything, because to her I had been at the desk for 10 minutes, so I tried to tell her she didn't care. Yeah, let me tell you something, Lowe's. Nothing will piss me off more than stories like this, particularly in this, with the world the way it is right now. Just like we're talking about, you got COVID to deal with. We got ridiculous inflation ripping us to shreds. You can't even afford to buy gas at the gas pumps. The last thing you need is anal douchebags in your management teams in your stores. You got a whole society right now that is very pro worker. I mean, because everybody's just trying to get by, and you don't need to make life more difficult for people. Promote people that can actually do the job the way it's supposed to do, and support the people in their charge, and not just look to be a dick or to demonstrate that they have authority or something. Don't piss us off. It's not a good idea. Arthur says, I've been concerned lately about the far right gaining a lot of support as the far left loses it. People want to legislate like banning porn. I don't think you're wrong, Arthur, that I think the far left has done this to themselves. I think a lot of it between cancel culture and some of just the ridiculous, over-the-top notions that the far left has been pushing for years, because things have been moving left, and so they're like, hey, let's take it and run. And now I think you're getting severe blowback the other way. I think you're right. If they try and ban porn, we'll all take to the streets together. I will fight over that. Absolutely. But you're not wrong. You guys know, I've told you over and over, I am very middle of the road, but I tend to lean away from whichever side seems to be the most extreme, because I don't like extremes. I don't like extreme left. I don't like extreme right. But you're not wrong, Arthur. We're definitely getting a bounce. And what happens too often in America, at least, excuse me, sorry guys. What happens too often in America is overcorrection. If, as a society, we see the far left is getting too far and has gone too far, instead of just correcting back to center, we'll go all the way to the other side. That's the history of America. COVID's in the chat. And he says, yo, oh, I'm sorry. Oh, man. I didn't mean to assume your gender. COVID says, y'all ain't going nowhere. I've got more transformations than Goku. That's good. Lick says it feels weird that it's called Omicron, since that's also the name of a shitty PC game. I didn't know that. That was made by the guys who made Heavy Rain and had David Bowie doing a somehow bad soundtrack. Really? I never heard of that game, Licks. I didn't know that. Excuse me, guys. See, this is what I'm talking about. I've never had a cough last this long at the tail end of a cold. Never. It's crazy. Rick says, Goku is a myth. I refuse to get my Goku vaccine. Oink makes a good point. Says if the right tried to ban porn, you would end up with a massive surge of people going left. And I would bet every penny I have that if they did try and do it, the leading voices of trying to ban porn would be among the biggest porn perusers of us all. That's typically the way in politics. Willie says, I also think that the manager, who is even my manager, is an illegal immigrant. Really? Report him. Her. Gannon says, Omicron will be the next Transformers villain. Optimus Prime will take on him and the Decepticons in the ultimate battle with Shia and Marky Mark. I like that, Gannon. That's a plot line I could get behind. Sure, absolutely. Kaiser says, humanity survived the Black Death, and that almost wiped us out. How is this requiring such lockdown measures? Well, that's what it is, Kaiser. And we've screwed things. I mean, we're in a lot of the reason we are in as bad a situation as we are economy-wise is because we went too far over the top with lockdowns and stuff. Now, at the very onset, you could almost make a case because we weren't sure what we were up against. But it was only a few months in that we started to realize things like that. The scientists found out that COVID does not go from person to object to person. That was huge. So we found out the best ways to deal with it, which were social distancing and masking. Masking, I think, helps. I don't think it's a ton. Social distancing is the big one. So we could have, if we were smart, at that point said, all right, we know what we're up against here. Let's make some smart changes, but leave everything open. Let's keep everything open and just try and keep people separated and blah, 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 so we don't kill the economy. But we didn't. Of course we didn't, because it had to be, well, no, the government needs to, now, we're going to give the president carte blanche, we're going to give governors carte blanche, and they can make all the rules they need to, because this is an emergency. And they fucked us, is what they did. Because this way, by making a bunch of decrees and rules, it kept them in the news, and it keeps them seeming like they're our protectors, and while they were actually screwing us. Lord Doherty says, I like some masks. Time for cosplay. Also says, I think lockdown is to prevent greater death rates. Right, but I don't think it did. The numbers don't prove that it did. The numbers show that social distancing in conjunction with the masks brought things down. I've seen no numbers to me that suggest there was any significant difference between masks and social distancing and going the next step and locking down. Barry says, interesting, Susan. In my previous post, it censored the Booster brand, so I had to take it out for it to post. Just for knowledge, it's the one that begins with Pete. So now, are you serious? So they censor Pfizer now. Oh my God. Yeah, because you don't want adults having adult conversations about the issues affecting the world right now. Be ridiculous. That's scary to YouTube. Pussies. Arthur says, last two posts, please. An example is Matt Walsh, a conservative commentator that said porn should be banned and people that make it should be jailed, had an appearance on Tim Pool's show, and most of the comments were defending him and talking about how porn destroys societies and that Coomers have turned away from God, and this was in Tim Pool's comment section. He's a former left. Yeah, I know Tim Pool. Fortunately, Matt Walsh is another extremist that I think, Arthur, when he's preaching to his choir, you'll see a lot of comments like that, but you'd never get a preponderance of people backing something along those lines. I wouldn't worry too much about him. Kaiser says they won't like mask wearing if Jim Carrey is involved. The Mask. What was the second one? The Son of Mask or something? I only got through a few minutes of that one. I was like, nah, never mind. Mr. King of Negativity says Matt Walsh's brain rotting. Yeah, I again, you guys know how I feel. I don't like extremists at all. I agree with Chrome. Matt Walsh is a clown not many people take seriously. Yeah. And this is coming from somebody who, at least currently, you guys know I lean right, but come on. I don't want anything to do with right extremists anymore, and I want anything to do with left extremists. Excuse me. Philip says, here in Canada, even our conservatives have a liberal bent. It seems that way from what I see up there, Philip. At least when compared to Republicans in America. But recently, even they've jumped on the extreme left bandwagon. Yeah, it's unfortunate. But I do think you're seeing a bounce the other way. Well, look at what's going on. Did you guys see what happened in France? I guess, fuck off, train. I guess is he a TV personality, I believe, that just announced his candidacy for president, and at his first rally, there were all kinds of fights and people swinging chairs at one another, which that's familiar to me. That's now you're in my territory. And there were a bunch of arrests made. I guess he even got attacked, and it's not wrong to say I believe to say worldwide. Excuse me. You've seen the far left pushing things too far, and now you're seeing a bounce back the other way. That's what seems to be happening. Nah. Gabe says, what is long and not hairy? The Congo line in the cancer department. Yikes. Socialists are coming, says research from 1918, Spanish flu onward, show lockdown has no statistically significant effect on spread, only quarantine does. I agree. And when you think about socialists, I mean, it just makes sense because we cannot, as a society, we cannot entirely lock down. You have to have, obviously, your medical services out there. You have to be able to go out and purchase the things you need to survive. You have to be able to buy food, get gas. You have to have emergency services. So as long as anybody has to be out there, and whatever you're dealing with, as in the case of COVID, is this easily transmissible, it's going to continue. So, yeah, lockdowns aren't going to do anything. And like Socialists Are Coming alludes to, you can't quarantine the world. So what you have to do is deal with it as best you can, which we never did here. We never got to that stage because we never do things rationally, where it was like, okay, now we understand it. Let's open everything back up, but with these precautions. It took us months and months and months to get to that point, and it shouldn't have. Lord T says, French have nothing but revolutions and accords of some kind. Yeah. But I just saw that, man. They were kicking the shit out of each other at that rally. Mr. King of Negativity says, it's kind of funny how the places in America with the highest viewership of gay porn are conservative states. Really? It's like all those times prominent anti-gay politicians are found in gay orgies. True. Yeah, that's the old, excuse me, people in glass houses throwing stones thing. I agree. Kellyo says, I live in Brazil. I don't know how many of you voted for Trump, but our president has a lot of similar ideas. He's not capable of taking care of our economy, and a lot of people died because of him. Well, I don't agree that a lot of people died because of Trump. Not to defend him, I'm just being a realist here. People want to blame him for everything because it's politically expedient. Did he handle the start of the virus poorly? Yes. So much so that, well, let me put it to you this way. I guess maybe I don't put a lot of stock in it because when there's something like this, global pandemic, I don't turn to the president for advice. I don't turn to the governor for advice. I don't turn for a local legislator for advice. I go out and try and see what the science people are saying. I mean, again, I want to know what epidemiologists say about it. I want to know about doctors who are dealing with the virus day to day say about it. I don't give a fuck what the president says about it. I don't give a fuck what Fauci says about it. I want to know the actual people. Fauci is a mouthpiece. Excuse me, I'm not picking on just him, but anybody in that position is a mouthpiece for the people who do the real work. Nothing Fauci has ever said has come as a surprise, because if you watch and read the epidemiologists and the scientists who are involved, they will come to a conclusion, find it, and then Fauci takes that information to the world. It's not like he thought of any of this. So I guess that's why I don't put much faith in politicians having a big influence, because if you're getting your medical advice from any politician, you're not very smart. It's not a good idea. Arthur says, I love Bolsonaro, Brazilian president. He's a weeb. Is he? He's one of us. Freddie says Germany, like max security, and thank God Lachette. Thank goodness Lachette was not elected as chancellor of fucking CDU. I am woefully underinformed on international politics. I can't blame that on anything but myself. You can go out and find that information. It sucks that you have to go out and really try and find any information internationally because, again, the only thing our media is interested in writing about are things that generate big clicks, like, oh, a new variant's going to kill the world, or whatever the latest Orange Man bad headline can be. Excuse me. Sorry, guys. Wolverine says, check last post, hairless Santa. Oh, I'm hairless Santa. I gotcha. Okay. Where is it? I have a lot of games to catch up on. GTA Trilogy, GTA 4, Red Dead Redemption as of Wednesday, Halo Infinite. It's funny you brought that up, Wolverine. I want to play, and I would even try. I think today I might have had time. I want to play GTA 5 on the channel again so bad. I love that game. Just to run around and do stupid shit, and I still can't figure out why it won't stop glitching out. And it's not just in the streams. It's as I play the game native to the computer. I play games that are that. I play Red Dead. I can play anything. I've got a load of high intensity games as far as the graphics load. No issues. I can't figure out. I've tried everything I can find online. Can't figure out why GTA 5 won't straighten itself out. It's driving me nuts. I really wanted to play it. Arthur says, next post for censorship. Sorry, guys. This cold just will not entirely leave. Hoping the water will keep the cough down a little. Arthur says, in light of the recent reports of the FBI and CIA covering pedophile crimes in their employees, do you think that intelligence agencies should be disbanded? Also, Wolverine stole my stream boss. Oh, he did. You're right. You're right, Arthur. Ah, Wolverine just ejected you. I wouldn't say disbanded. I would say significantly and transparently, most importantly, completely gone over from top to bottom. I do think we are in need of those intelligence agencies, but there's obviously some serious issues within them. Excuse me. Evil Betty says, yeah, we were talking about that earlier, Betty. The Omicron variant, according to South African doctor, said it's not bad and people are not dying from it. Right, and again, we got to take that, not with a grain of salt, because it's good information, but we have to take it with a wait and see, fuck off, Jane, wait and see approach, because it was just such a small sample size. But it's certainly encouraging, absolutely. It was several thousand people, and as Betty said, this is a researcher who was on the team that discovered this variant, and she was saying there were no cases of severe illness with it. She said, what they saw mostly was a day or two of fatigue, dry cough, I know about that, and sore throat. Man, if that's the case, and a lot of epidemiologists have been saying from the start, this could happen, that you'll see the virus, excuse me, guys, the variants become possibly more easily transmissible, but less potent. They said that's not uncommon. Because I guess, from what I'm understanding, and as much as I can glean as a layman reading this stuff, I guess viruses like this will put basically all their morphing effort into becoming more easily transmissible. And if that's at the sake of having a more impactful effect on people, then so be it. Chrome says, so Doctor Who's latest season just ended, and the current showrunner doubled down on his rewriting of the Doctor's backstory that everyone hated, destroying a near 60 years historic British franchise. Of course, Chrome. And why wouldn't they? Wokeism is above all else. I did hear something about this, Skimster. He said, did you hear about how GTA's company is taking a huge hit due to how utterly crappy the remaster of the old games somehow look and play worse than the original releases? I did hear about that. I did hear a lot of complaints about it. Yeah, that would. I mean, what GTA 5 has been their cornerstone game for how many years now? And to come up with something like that where you went to improve something and did exactly the opposite, they deserve to take a hit. Evil Betty says, look up, what's this? Ancomere? Ancomere when you get a chance. A weird rearranging of the letters. All right, I'll take a look at that. Ancomere. Well, let me highlight it. Search Google. Oncomere. An oncomere is a microRNA that is associated with cancer. MicroRNAs are short RNA molecules about 22 nucleotides in length. Essentially, the miRNAs specifically target certain messenger RNAs. That is interesting. I wonder if that, Betty, I wonder if that's not a coincidence, though. Maybe that's one of the reasons it came up with the name it did. I don't know. GTA 5 has been the cornerstone, Gimster says, for them for 3 console generations. That's what I mean. I mean, it is a great game, but there's lots of great games out there, and I don't think we've ever seen a studio rely on a single title for quite this long. Arthur says, I'd rather everyday criminals have more freedom than support an untouchable elite crime ring with my tax dollars. Yeah, I mean, see, I'm not for, as I said, disbanding of the intelligence agencies because, well, maybe I'm being too optimistic. I'd like to think that they could serve a very useful purpose if they are used properly and given the proper details and given the proper orders. But maybe that's a little optimistic. Lick says, Joe Biden feels like someone who spends 90% of his time asleep and the remaining 10% making terrible decisions. Pee-pee poo-poo butthole. I can't disagree with you. I'm very disappointed in Biden. Excuse me. Chrome says, they retconned the Doctor to not be a Time Lord? Also made it so the first Doctor wasn't white, then genocided the Time Lords, even the kids acting like it was a good thing because they're colonialists. Yeah. I don't think there's ever been a truer euphemism than get woke, go broke. Wolverine says, Bethesda has that same deal with Skyrim. Another great game, though, Wolverine. You're right, but that's another great title. Excuse me, guys. Arthur says, studio relying on a single game. Skyrim. Yeah, Arthur said the same thing. That's true. I hadn't thought about that. You're right. That's a good point. This Skyrim is so gorgeous. Arthur says, Jinx, Wolverine. As you guys are fighting for Stream Boss, too. Wolverine says, beat you again, boy. Big Green says, I don't even watch Doctor Who, but that don't sound good. No, I've never been a watcher myself, Big Green, but Spaz Kid used to be way into it. It's the only way I have any of the information that I do on it. And I got to admit, when we were able to do the old reaction video streams and stuff, you guys showed me a lot of clips and it did look good. It looked better than I had even imagined. A lot of the clips were great. Vin says, with having epilepsy, I have to be as careful as possible since a high fever can cause seizures. Oh, yeah, absolutely. But I would rather be extra safe than not at all, you know. Yeah, but the problem, though, Vin, is extra safe sounds good, but when you get extra safe to the point of where you're having a negative impact on other people, then it's not so good. You know, being extra safe is great until you start to find out that you've destroyed the lives of tens of thousands, if not more, people by destroying their businesses when it didn't have to be that way because we knew what the methods were to trying to keep everyone safe. Barry says, previous post about Rockstar. Okay, where are you at, Barry's? GTA 5 has been the Rockstar cornerstone for 8, almost 9 years. Is it that long now? but RDR2 took some of the weight away from it. That's true. Red Dead 2. But it is funny how, as others have pointed out, you've had several generations of consoles now where GTA 5 was the cornerstone. It's crazy. It really is. Freddie says, what happened to the next-gen gaming? COD Vanguard, Battlefield 2042, Destruction All-Stars, GTA Trilogy, Definitive Edition Remastered, Biomutant, Halo Infinite. Yeah, it's not. I'll tell you, it just doesn't seem to be, especially when it comes to consoles, it doesn't seem to be a particularly brilliant snapshot in time now for the gaming companies. Chrome says, oh, and this thing, maybe the doctor's father, the former showrunners, burst into the BBC offices to complain about what was done. Okay, let me take a look at Chrome's link. No, it's giving me a page doesn't exist, Chrome. I don't know what happened. Yeah, it gave. Let me click it once more, just to make sure it didn't screw up. No, it gave. Unless they just took it down, it gave me a page doesn't exist. Oink says I'm pro mandates. Love going on dates with men. Arthur, those who would give up essential liberty to purchase a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor safety. Ben Franklin. Yep. Well, that's what I mean. It's like anything else. You got to balance things. And there are people who are more at risk. But if you're providing them the information as to how best to protect themselves, then they need to follow up on that. Excuse me, guys. That's what I've heard, Kaliel. Says, I miss the old times of Overwatch. It's kind of dead nowadays. I played some Overwatch, and that's what I hear is it's pretty much dried up. Lick says, the Skyrim fishing is basically just Animal Crossing fishing with none of the flair. You don't even get a mini game for reeling it in. It's just a time button press, and you have a flash now. Excuse me, guys. Top left pick is of the current doctor and possibly her father. Let me see. Okay, here we go. This one's loading. Her father? What the hell? Yeah, this is... So we retcon the time was shot by throwing the fob watch into the TARDIS, never to be seen again. Again, trust me, the wokesters can destroy anything. No matter how great a series may have been, no matter how great anything may be, wokesters getting a hold of it can destroy it. Excuse me, guys. Just check this, make sure it's not anything important. Okay. Nothing that's brutally important. Kaiser says, as someone who has a heart condition, I'd rather the freedom to die than the mandate to live. I understand, pal. I completely understand. Kaliel says, when Brazil reached 100,000 deaths because of COVID-19, he was interviewed, and when asked about the deaths, he said, I don't work at the cemetery. Really? All right, that's kind of fucked up. I'll give you that one. No matter what your views are on how to deal with the virus, that's fucked up. Willie says, rumor has it that the Definitive Trilogy was actually supposed to be a mobile port. Oh, really? See, man, that GTA, I just wish I could get that. I'd ask for suggestions, but to be honest with you guys, I think I've tried them all because I'm halfway decent at searching the internet, and I found a bunch of different potential solutions, and nothing works. And the really odd thing is, all my other games will play. I tried to get the most graphics intensive games I have, and they play fine. Just GTA will not. It just keeps glitching. I uninstalled it, re-downloaded it. I've tried everything. And the thing that gets me too is we used to play it on this current system I have here. Excuse me. Sorry, guys. The past times we played it have been on here. Chrome says Russell T Davies, the showrunner who brought the Doctor Who back in '05, is coming back as showrunner. He's not happy with what they did to his baby. He's back under the condition he has full creative control. Oh, that's cool. Gimster says GTA's company is not only suing their mod community, but also suing people and companies that use Rockstar in the name. One of the remaster games is actually just a mobile port. Really? Huh. Gabe says I played some of the older Nintendo games like Super Mario 3. I always liked the Mario games. I was never like a huge fan, but back in the day I used to try most all of them. The only one that really stayed with me that I can play endlessly is Kart. I fucking love Mario Kart. I geek right out for that one. That one I nerd right out. Like yeah, I'm just trying to think through. There's no others that all of the others I'd play them here or there, play for a while and be done with them. But Brawl is pretty cool, but not for me. That's Spaz Kid's game. Socialist are Coming says common sense is not with the woke. Example: let's remove all the guns they cause X deaths a year in violence. Ignores the 50X instances of defensive gun use, most of which involve no deaths in the end. Well, the thing with gun control, I've always said socialists are coming, and I agree with you. We don't have a gun problem in America. We have a violence problem in America. Of course, there are more gun deaths here than there would be anyplace else that has banned them, but because they're here is not the reason people are using them to kill one another. And that's until we address that, it doesn't matter if people have to resort to boards with a nail through them, they'll find a way to kill each other. And as we saw, I've said it over and over again, and I will never list the methods for hurting people that would be way more effective than a gun. And I'm not going to say what it was, but if you watch the news, you saw one of them take place just within the last couple weeks. You're not going to stop people that want to hurt big numbers of people. And all you do taking the guns away is take away the opportunity to defend yourself from that type of violence. Desi says UK has it way worse with all the knife and acid attacks. I've heard they're dealing with a lot of issues with knives. Chrome says they use acid and knives here instead of guns. Oh, also guns, because banning them doesn't stop criminals. There you go, Chrome. 100%. And again, because we are a society that won our freedom with guns, I've always said that's a lot of why guns are part of our culture. You have to remember, like you guys over in the UK, your history goes back. You guys fought wars with stones, but I mean, and with swords, and that's your history. All our history here in America, everything we have ever done, we gained our independence with guns. We protected ourselves with guns. It's an entirely different society. But the problem currently is not the guns. It's that so many people in our society want to kill other people in our society. And anytime there's a shooting, anytime there's anything, any type of crime perpetrated with guns, it's always about the guns and never about, well, why did the perpetrator want to kill this person or people? And then, of course, a big part of the number of deaths with guns are suicides. And no, I don't think any one person should ever be denied having access to a gun for self-defense because somebody else decided to kill themselves with it. There's no logic in that whatsoever. And you hear people all the time, well, if it just makes it more difficult for one person to take their own life, then it's worth it. No, it isn't. Fuck that. I mean, whatever that led that person to that point has nothing to do with somebody else being able to defend themselves. You're right, Big Green. I'm not going to spell it out, but it's not like people even need objects to kill each other, let alone weapons. I've said the same thing all along. It's people just don't understand. Just because guns in America are the convenient way of doing things doesn't mean it's the most effective way. I've been hearing something about that, Josh. He says, yo, Curtis, DBZ Kakarot is an open world Dragon Ball game and it's so much fun. That's the one is that the one that just came out? I get titles mixed up, but I know Dragon Ball game just came out because a lot of people were talking about on social media, but I get the names mixed up. Gabe says, I feel like it's going to take us a long time to recover from the inflation we're going through. Unfortunately, I think you're right, Gabe. It's going to be a while. Yeah, there's no relief in sight, put it that way. Arthur says, I noticed no Aussies brag about the gun ban anymore. And you know what always got me about that, Arthur, is you see people bring that up all the time. Well, Australia had one mass shooting, outlawed guns, and they don't have any more. That's the way to go. They don't bother to mention that they never had a problem with mass shootings. Mass shootings were a rarity before they did that. So that there's no logic in that. You didn't have an issue. So you don't know that the gun ban stopped more mass shootings from taking place because you didn't have a problem with them to begin with. But people, again, they only want you to hear one side of the story when they bring up something like that. Chrome says, unless they get rid of the Timeless Child retcon in Doctor Who, I don't think I'll watch, though I really hate that retcon that much. It was one writer's ego retconning 60 years of history to make it his. That sucks. Chrome makes another good point. They also forgot that Australia's gun violence went down at the same rate as crime rates worldwide. Right. And like I said, they never had a problem with mass shootings. So you had one, you passed a law, and there hasn't been a problem with mass shootings. There wasn't prior to that either. So you have no idea of the cause and effect of all that. Excuse me. Licks says Australia needs to ban all the actors. That'll solve everything. Goddamn right, Licks. It's a good thing we got the flat earthers to keep things straight. Philip says women make more suicide attempts, but men succeed more often. I didn't know that. That's because women use less sure methods like sleeping pills, because it's a cry for help. Men succeed because they want to die. Yeah, unfortunately, I think there's a lot of truth, absolute truth in that, Philip. It's how determined are you to get it done? Yeah. Oh, guys, I got to head out. This was a great stream. This was fun. Hopefully we'll be back. As you see, I'm still struggling with this cough a little bit. I apologize to you guys for that, for the hacking throughout the freaking stream. I don't know why this cold won't let go. But thank you for all the conversation. Thanks for your stories on how you guys dealt with COVID. As always, the conversations in here are so much fun. They make me feel so good. And it's Monday. We all know that Monday is mundane. Mundane. I like that. That's almost like lyrical. Monday is mundane. So the sticky stuff is not elite. But guys, it's sticky stuff. Even the stuff that isn't elite is better than anything else we experience in a given day, mostly anyway. You know, like the love a parent feels for a child or anything like that. It's all secondary to the sticky stuff. I'm just going to shut up now. Here we go. Pampu, pampu. Sticky stuff for you, sticky stuff for you, sticky stuff for you, sticky stuff for you, sticky stuff for you. Mundane, Monday, sticky stuff for everybody. Because we'll bang, okay? Flashily like Buggy. And as always, most important, you bet your ass it's never fucking mundane. Goosh, 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 goosh. Goosh.